Good morning, everyone. Kurt Overter here, and I am here to talk about hand cutting alignments and this thing I'm seeing in some of the texts in regards to almost what I'm starting to call this barrel hugging grip. Did some test cutting recently in regards to trying to explore why we have this kind of what I call a barrel hugging concept. It's of course not a barrel hugging concept. It's just you see images of people on their shoulders or their hands, where instead of having their hands like this, you have them where it's almost where my left hand and my right hand are opposite of each other, and we're almost having like this hugging mechanism that kind of looks like a barrel to me. This is some exploration in regards to what this could do and what as far when you talk about that position from up and high. Some of the explanations I can get from this is that you are talking about creating a position to be able to get to this right shoulder position in both armor and in out of armor. Breastplates are a thing, and when you have rear bracers on the arms, they become more of a thing. So it actually becomes harder for you to do some of these closing pieces, and that is only even more exacerbated if you have chainmail or Bessic U's in those places. Not all armor require people that fought to fight like this. I mean, you think about this right here, if you're talking about having to fight different types of combatants. If I don't have to fight in half sword, then I don't have to fight in half sword. And this might be because somebody is in a lighter armor consideration where I have openings where the blade has biting purposes. So with that being the case, a few things I noticed with this right here is that this concept of holding the sword in this way serves as a way for two things to happen, in which, we can place this onto the shoulder, and we are able to almost, by allowing our hand to be here off the side, you see this within Danzig's image here. So I'm not necessarily benching the wrist, but I have a spot where I can kind of just squeeze and pop out. What I'm noticing right here is it allows for the right hand to stay aligned. And as I need to transverse, I can keep that right hand in place while the left hand does the turning. This serves several functions, and depending on which side you're cutting from or what your desired origin is, the desired destination of your cut, having the left hand be able to rotate in different positions allows for a lot more dynamics when it comes down to effects that you're trying to cause on target. So with that being the case here, the concepts I play this in with were all of the three formats in which you see the posta di donna, whether it is up on shoulder or it's on the side here, and then also on the left side. There's different angles that I'm finding within the grips, which I think speak to a notion that you have an idea of where you're cutting to, or that you have not yet figured that out. The higher guard right here, I find that your hands are aligned, so then I just push forward with this. But when it's on the shoulders, right here, I'm seeing much more of a handle position right here, which is requiring me to squeeze by keeping that right hand forward and allowing it to push out towards. It's almost like I'm wringing out a towel in a way, but I'm not having to do this with the wrist. I keep my right hand straight because it's keeping on the blade. This also works within some of the other positions that they talk about with Bicorno, where you see this, again, this kind of a concept, or maybe he's here, but ultimately, by keeping my right hand steady, I can ring and move in different directions. And that allows for more turning and rotational concepts. Also, when it comes down to utilizing this within, receiving in the crown or the posta frontale, and allowing ourselves to squeeze and use turns to get to other positions. So those are really the kind of the pieces I had to show about this right here. The video footage I had is in regards to me cutting and just kind of showing all those pieces out of it all. These are things that, again, this is one thing about tatami, is that as important as tatami cutting is, because it does teach a lot about like what you're going for. I think it also has the potential to forget, has the potential to get people to forget that cutting once in there is, if this had been a life or death type of situation, it's not a lightsaber. A lot of Fiore's manuals to me read like strike them, wound them, get in and control their right arm, which is the danger arm. Not that the left can't do things too, but ultimately the right arm is that's holding this mechanism, the sword, the dagger, whatever the case may be, and that is how I can cause a lot of harm. So if I'm cutting in, and that striking area is right here to the left side, hitting there is great, but it also allows me access to this piece. So I share that as a perspective piece because a lot of times with the tatami cutting, I sometimes have to remind myself, like, look, it doesn't matter if I'm cutting through on this. What matters is, is this a strike that I can make, recover from, and then also either move in or extract to be able to move on to a different target. If you're talking about martial context. Of course, I am not suggesting that anyone strike that hard against somebody in sparring, but as far as a consideration piece, that's the piece that comes out of it all. That's why to me, in the Fiore manuscripts, when you see the Posta di Donna, you have 3 variances of this, where one is on the shoulder and one is up on high, because what this does is, by me being here on the shoulder, now I have that, I can rotate around as I see fit. But the moment I come over here, you'll notice my hands are aligned. So this is much more of a dedicated cut into there. The same side with the left. The left side is instead of being like this, it seems to be off to the side right here. And this to me seems much more like, again, I'm keeping my hands aligned for that type of cutting mechanism. So those are just kind of the pieces right there I wanted to share with everyone today. Real fast here, I'm just going to run through it and show a few ways in which this does. I've done plenty of images right there where people say, oh yeah, we know how to do this right here, but want to stand up here, take a few seconds, show what that looks like, and then wrap up the video. So we'll go from there. Okay, so like I said before, the images that you see here, I showed earlier, you see a guy like this right here. And again, I'm not here to argue where it is on the shoulder, but regardless, the thing I'm looking at most here is the left hand. So being in this position here, again, I have it so that the sword, I'm almost, like I said, I have this barrel hugging, I'm hugging this thing where I can rotate back and forth. So with it being set on my shoulder, I don't think it's a mistake that the left hand is like this. I see this as also a way of being able to get this into action. And whether you are Danzig, Fiore, or Ringek, where again you see this kind of image where he does the same thing, where his hands behind. This left hand, I believe they're teaching people to stand like this because of breastplate consideration. So with this being the case, all I do for this is, I was using this right here to squeeze to get forward. And that is done by, because my left hand's here, as I am using my feet to turn, automatically here you see the blade is not cleared my head. But if I give an extra squeeze, it comes off to the side and I'm shooting out. With that being the case, that's just a measure of being able to put this into the centerline area. If I want to traverse across, I can, and pull back, and you get that line as we see. But at the same time too, as much as I had success in cutting with this, I see this much more as a projection piece to getting this thing out and then to work for more point-oriented guards. Again, to me that makes sense why I might be in this position. I'm waiting to see. With a half turn, I end up putting myself right here. Again, this is kind of how it looks in the Fiore image. And by me being here, my foot being offline, I'm never, like I said, my train tracks are towards, but I'm here. But now, in order to maintain this barrel grip, yeah, I can sit here like this, and there may be suggestive evidence that he's saying to be here like this. But I find that rolling this down, I can now from here, because I have my body structure, I just squeeze, turn, voltastabulate, and it has automatic trajectory. And I don't have to sit there and do extra squeeze to come out. With the left side here, again, you see almost this image of where he's side profile. Again, I don't think that he's doing this. I believe he's doing this, which allows me to go right back into my square on target. And being here, I can traverse if I need to. There's a lot of things I can do from here. But again, you see the arms lined up. And as I squeeze, because my hands are already there, I don't have to barrel grip this. I just hold it right here because my arms are already in trajectory. Another one, like I was saying, coming here, and going into bicorno. I can do this by coming forward by just keeping my hands. I go straight. I just go straight into frontale. And from here I can squeeze. And again, it's not the right hand necessarily rotating around the handle. It's the around the wasted grip of the left hand. Okay. The other thing too is, in some of the cutting is coming up here, and now you notice right here, my hand has given a partial rotation, where I'm like this, and then I can just allow myself to shift and pop across, and now I have got a cut here. This can be done here using a horizontal cut. It can also be utilized to come up this way, and just simply, I come here and I can drive straight down. But again, that allows for, it's a left-hand consideration. All of this is to say that the question is, let's start with this, is why is the left hand opposite of one another here? And why do I see this kind of off to the side? And the only reason why I think that is happening is this is a squeezing mechanism, which is where my right hand stays steady and my left hand helps with snapping it out, but also traverses getting into the angle. And by turning all these different directions, they change because now I have got a trajectory shot where my hands are getting ready. Whereas up here, if I want to get this into action, it becomes a little bit different for squeezing out. So that's all I really wanted to share here today. The thing I was very excited about this right here was, again, I always ask the question of like, why do we have the designs that they are? And in having shortened the length of a fetter to some of the sharps that I have from Albion, there's a lot of things that are kind of coming into play here that make this a lot more, speak to like consideration that you may have as a fighter out there. You know, again, the big thing for me, I used to think that I always just loved before I even got into it, I thought the Gothic wrap was really beautiful, but I never really considered the operational action of what it could do for you in swinging and manipulating the sword. So again, for me, this is just context here. I highly encourage people to go out there and try to play with this. Again, this all works very well for me in being able to get action out there as fast as possible and to cause striking mechanisms that are very tight and narrowed. This wrap right here, again, this is just me. I'm just taking electrical tape and wrapping over the cord wrapping here. But this portion of the handle, some people have asked me, like, why is this so bulky here? I'm doing this to simulate some of the sharps I have out there, because you will see consistently sharps that have more of like a box frame or an octagonal frame or ovular or octagonal is a little bit too big, but either way, you have a boxy shape in the hand of the right side. This does not mean that you don't get round positions in the top portion, but it just means that you have swords where this top right here is a lot more ergonomic to fit the right hand in a way where it doesn't have to move much, and the left hand can move freely to cause these types of things. So in exploring that in different lengths of blades and so on and so forth, it's kind of been revealing to me and how we may wind and allow for full turns and rotation of pieces. For a long time, I was causing a lot of exacerbating shoulder issues because I was only using the right hand to turn the mechanism rather than allowing the left hand to turn, and rather than turning the sword, but allowing that to be the part that actually grips and does the changing piece of the left hand by having the left hand loosened. So again, these are just some of the observations I have here for that. Like I said, nothing too crazy about practice right here, but it is about grip consideration. And what does it buy us? What does it get us? So again, as always, if please drop me a line, leave a comment if you have any questions, anything, any comments or thoughts on this right here. All it does is it inspires me to continue to do more research. I do not think that there is a right way. For me, it's just, you have a grip here. This is the opportunities here and why they may be this way. And these are my discoveries that I'm making for myself. And I'm working on continuing to practice within my sparring and in training. So with that being the case, everybody, I hope everyone's safe and well. And wherever you are, until we meet each other again, train well, fight on.
back.